second recipe is a Manhattan-style clam chowder. Soup is another great way to add fluids to your diet. And this clam chowder is also rich in protein for healing, as we talked about before, and several important nutrients like vitamin A, vitamin B12, vitamin C, folate, vitamin K, and of course, potassium. The addition of the fresh parsley is also a great idea because it may help to offset any odor from the ostomy if that is an issue you are experiencing. Okay, Jeremy, what you got there?
Thanks, Daniela. Okay, so we're jumping into soup territory here. This is it's one of my favorite seafood-based soups. We're making a clam chowder, but not the clam chowder that you probably typically think of that is rich and creamy. This is the Manhattan style clam chowder. So you may have heard of the red or the white clam chowder. This is the red clam chowder. Very savory, a lot of umami because of the tomato, and it has some nice heartiness too in it because of the potato and some of the carrots. So it's a great soup, very nourishing, and very flavorful. Now, this is, like I mentioned, Manhattan style. I'm going to emphasize the style part. We're taking inspiration from the classic. We're switching some things up a bit too, just in line with some of the guidelines and some of the challenges or barriers that you may experience. So you can switch it up even more, but we're going to start off with the carrots. So that will be our aromatic. We're not adding onions to this or garlic mince in its traditional sense. I'll show you a way in which we can still get the flavor though. So in our pot, medium heat, I've added a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to start off with adding some just roughly diced carrots in here. And I just want to sweat those a little bit, get some of the flavors going. Now, traditionally, you would have either like a smoked bacon in here for the Manhattan style clam chowder, which would give it obviously some nice smokiness. I want to keep that sort of fat down a little bit here. And so to get that smokiness, I'm going to add one of my favorite spices. This is smoked paprika. Again, not spicy in terms of heat, but it has this really nice smokiness. So that smoky flavor that you would get from adding like the bacon in the traditional soup, we're going to still get that smokiness from this smoked paprika. So I want to add it now too, to really get the flavor going. So about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons, depending on how smoky you like it. So we'll soften this up a little bit and try to give you the best view possible. There we go. Now, to the aromatics, to some of the other aromatics, garlic, onion, herbs. Some of those can be a little challenging. And I think Daniela, you probably speak to it a little bit more.
Yeah. So with the onions and garlic, it can increase gas production. And so if that's a concern for you, Jeremy, I like how you suggested you could add it and remove it. If you're having problems with odor, I think then you may want to eliminate it completely. So maybe, Jeremy, like, are there options for that? Or I'm sure, I mean, it sounds flavorful, so it might be good even without the onion or garlic, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Here's where you can customize. And going back to your point of how to add it and remove it, one of the best ways to do that, I find, is using a sachet. This is, we call this like a sachet or a bouquet garni, or you can use twine. But essentially what we're doing is using cheesecloth, which you can find it, you probably get in most grocery stores, probably even some like craft stores or bulk stores. And this is just a square of it. Is all I need. Is a great way to add a bunch of those aromatics. If depending on the odor situation, I can add garlic and onion to this or not. I can add herbs, whatever I like in terms of flavor. So it makes it a lot easier to pull out. This is great if you're making soups, if you're making broth, stocks, where I don't want to lose maybe some of the herbs, or I want to control the amount of flavor I'm getting from those aromatics, I can easily remove it afterwards. So what I'm doing is getting a little square of that cheesecloth, you can see it, and then I can add my aromatics inside. So I have a little bit of thyme in here that I'll just gently rub with my fingers to start to activate some of those essential oils in there. A little bit of bay leaf in here. I just crushed the clove of garlic with the side of my knife just to break it open. And again, this is optional, right? You can either add the garlic or not. You can put peppercorns, you can put other spices that you want in here. It's completely up to you. And then I'll grab the two corners on one side and the two corners. Actually, we'll do it with the two corners first. Two corners together, and we'll just cross them, almost like tie it. And then the other two corners together, cross them and tie it like this. And then we can just pull gently, and then do one more tie of the corners so that I have this really nice sort of sachet. Okay. Now this is going to still be able to, we'll be able to impart the flavors that we want, but we can remove those afterwards. And that way we're not consuming or losing a bay leaf, and then you get a mouthful of bay leaf, which is not a fun either. So we're gonna go ahead and add this, and I can go ahead and add it actually right now. My carrots are softening up. I'll go ahead and add my sachet right in there. And to this, we're going to add our potatoes as well. I am using where it is, there it is. This is a Yukon Gold potato. Depending on where you are in the world, you might have different varieties. What I suggest is choose a waxy potato for a couple reasons. So the waxy potatoes are things like the red skin. You can do the red skin potatoes if you want. We're peeling them, but the idea is that the potato itself is not as starchy as like a russet potato. So in soups or stews, your starchier potatoes are going to start to break down quite a bit, whereas your waxy potatoes will hold their shape better, which is what we want here. So the Yukon somewhere in between. So it is on the waxier side, so it will hold its shape, but it will absorb some of the broth too. So that's the one we're working with. Peeled, diced, and I just held it in some cold water here. This will also help to strip down some of the starch, but it's really just to prevent the discoloration or the oxidation. When you're shooting a cooking class, you have to think about these things. I don't want to shoot like off-colored potatoes, so we're just holding it in a little bit of water, which will drain, and add them in my pot. And just a rough dice on there. I like the big chunk of the potato. Beautiful. And then we can go right away and add our liquid, our broth. So there's a couple things that we're going to add here, again, for flavor. The tomato part, you can use tomato juice or you can use tomato puree. We're going to add about 2 cups of that. We're going to get some really, really nice savoriness, so it's really nice umami from the tomato. And it's going to work well with the broth, and that's more traditional. It's the tomato base.
And just if I can jump in, Jeremy, it's really interesting that the tomato juice or the tomato puree, we think a lot about the vitamin C. We think a lot about lycopene, which is an antioxidant, and those are great. Actually, vitamin C is an antioxidant too. But the tomato also is a great source of folate, potassium, magnesium, and copper. And it's on the list of foods to try if you have issues with odor from your ostomy. So this recipe is definitely a go-to with the tomato juice or puree and the parsley for managing odor.
Love it. Yes, absolutely. And so that will be the first part. We're going to add a little bit of water. So about a cup of water, and then this is a clam chowder. So we're using canned clams to make it a lot easier. What's nice is the canned clams come in their own sort of broth, that clam juice, which you can buy separately on its own, just the clam juice. which you'd be like, why are people buying clam juice? Usually for soups like this or dishes like this, right? So we're gonna add a little bit of that. And that's gonna make it super flavorful as well. One little cheat, one little hack that I will say, and this may be only a Canadian thing. I don't know if Daniela, you know, but Clamato. You heard of
Right.
Clamato, right? We see it in our grocery stores. That's essentially a tomato juice. I don't know if it is something that you see elsewhere, but with us, it's tomato juice, but it has another ingredient added to it that maybe I don't know if everyone realizes. It's in the name, Clamato. It's clam juice. So there's clam juice already added to the tomato juice. You can even use, again, it tends to be a little higher in sodium, but I guess it depends on what what you're looking for, right? That could be helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you need the additional sodium, if that's not a concern, that may be an option for you. And yeah, tomato juice. I think
Yeah.
that is a Canadian thing.
I think it might be a Canadian thing. So you can use that as well. That has the clam and the tomato already in one. And so you can add a little bit of that for the flavor. But that is pretty much it for this point. We're gonna bring this up to a simmer. I will put the lid on top and really just until the potatoes are nice and soft. So this might take like 20 minutes and then I can go ahead and finish it off. So do a little swap here. So we'll not let you wait for this part. So this has been simmering for about 30 minutes. Potatoes are nice and soft. About the last 5 minutes is when I would add the clams. Okay, I don't want to add them too early. If I had them cooking in there the entire time, that might get pretty tough and rubbery, and I don't want that. So the last 5 minutes, you can add your clams to the soup. You're going to remove, if you had that sachet in there, you can remove that. So you can see here again, any of those aromatics were nice and packaged in my little cheesecloth. So I can remove that nice and easily. And then we are ready to plate. And season to taste. Oh, and this is, again, I love the tomato version of this clam chowder. Super hearty, super flavorful as well. And yeah, this is where you can add other of your other favorite vegetables or anything, but keeping it more of its classic self. And then, like Daniela mentioned, a little bit of fresh parsley for multiple reasons, but it also gives it some nice color. And there we go. This is our Manhattan style clam chowder.
That looks amazing. You know what? I don't think I ever had Manhattan style clam chowder. I've usually had the other, so